I'm really happy to introduce our next speaker. How many of you were at the cannabis ceremony last night? Yeah, wonderful. I hope you're refreshed. The Rachael Carlevale was an extremely important part of that, as you noticed. And if you weren't here for that, you will soon find out that she's a wonderfully warm personality, and I really loved a lot of, well, everything that Chris said this morning, but I really liked his emphasis on service, because Rachael from down in Colorado is doing a lot of fantastic service work with Ganjasana. I've had extensive talks with her about the detail she puts into the work that she does of connecting with the plant and bringing the spirit of the plant forward. She's doing great work. Give her a warm welcome, please.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for being here, and it's such an honor to be a part of this great tapestry that we weave on this planet, and so props for all of you for showing up and doing the work. So thank you so much for being here. And also thank you to Breege for getting us prepared to learn and to be in our highest selves and embody our bodies and our breath. So thank you, Breege, for that. And this presentation is experiential, and participation is voluntary. So you have an active choice if you would like to participate as much as you would like or not at all and just witness it, and that's completely up to you. But I would like to invite everyone to join me in attuning our energy together by sounding the syllable of our past, our present, and our future, the sound of Om. And this symbol right here is the visual of Om that we have. And when we feel this vibration, the vibration is sound, sound is matter. Vibration from one angle looks like this, and then from the other angle it's looking at us, and that's light. So it's all one when we really think about it. And so when we Om, the ah sound comes from our belly. The O sound we emanate from our heart, and the sound we emanate from our third eye, Ajna chakra, right here in the middle of our forehead. So let's just all first take a deep breath to clear our channel. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. And we'll Om 3 times together if you choose to participate. Inhale. And this last Om will chant for peace on the planet and all the cosmos and beyond. Give it all your guttural everything. I just wanted to include this photo because it's the reason I'm standing up here. I want to give great thanks to Chris, the medicine hunter, who just opened up the sermon this morning. Thank you so much. And to his wife, Zoe, our cosmic sister. This is an image back when we had cameras that you would take photos with. So I don't know if you could see the date down there. In 2010, almost 10 years ago. When I was in college and I was studying pre-medicine at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, and I was on my track to go to medical school, and I thought it would be fun to just take a little class I found called the Shaman's Pharmacy. And I was so fortunate and lucky to spend some time down in the Amazon with Chris and his wife Zoe, studying with the Shipibo tribe. And I had such a transformational experience down there, it changed the complete course of my entire life. So instead of going off to medical school, what I found was true medicine and healing with the plants and working with plant spirit. So that is the journey that has brought me here to this stage today. And the Cosmic Sisters, which are supporting the women in the community, is also why I'm here today. So I want to give great thanks and honor to the shoulders that we stand upon in this community. I also wanted to include this slide because it is the court log report from 2005 when I was arrested for the second time for cannabis possession. Now, I never imagined I would be on this stage speaking freely not only about cannabis, but other psychedelics that are felonies, if you have them, like LSD and MDMA and ayahuasca. I never, ever imagined that we would be here speaking freely, openly, legally about these things that we all knew underground were important and life transformational, but we didn't speak about it in public. And so I felt it's dire important to know the journey that it takes to get here and to never give up. So when we think about master plants in the psychedelic field, a lot of times ayahuasca comes to mind. Now, cannabis is really my plant. She's my best friend. And so the first time I went to work with ayahuasca, it was a problem. I don't speak Spanish, and so when I went to sit with the shaman and talk about what we might discover in our journeys and why I was there. The translator, who's actually Dr. Joe Tafor, whose book is back there, The Fellowship of the River, he was translating back and forth, and I kept hearing the shaman say, marijuana. And I was like, I know that word. And they were saying, oh, I see marijuana spirit in me. I didn't say a word to them about cannabis, but this shaman saw a darkness of the marijuana plant. And I also want to mention, I don't like to call it marijuana unless I'm speaking Spanish, because it's a racist term when we use that in the demonization of the cannabis plant. So that's why I call it cannabis or ganja or other words, but I refer to it as marijuana in this Spanish context. So working with ayahuasca plant, we call her she's a female. We call cannabis a she. Cannabis is a dioecious plant, so there's males and there's females. So what happens when you have two alpha females in the same room? Well, the Shipibo think it's a problem, and they say that cannabis, what I was told with the teachers I work with, it's bad, don't use it. However, if you notice, where they come from is the rainforest, and cannabis is not indigenous to that place. So it's not part of their culture, and they just really don't know about it. So what I've found through my experience in my journeys is that when we work with respect and intention, we can work with all the plants together. We can get along when we do it in the right way. So the real big piece here that we've all been talking about is integration. Seems to be a buzzword here in the psychedelic community. So what I would really like to get through to everyone today of what I've learned in all my life's work is that in order to integrate, what we're really trying to do is relieve our suffering. Everybody suffers, everyone has pain, everyone has experienced trauma, some more than others. But we all suffer. And so how do we relieve our suffering? We need to connect with nature. See nature as our ally. How do we do that? You need to quiet your mind so you can listen to the plants. We talk about how do you know this ayahuasca vine mixed with this yage leaf to make this concoction that's going to change your whole life? Well, the plants told us. But how do we get to that place where we can listen? We need to be present. But how do we be present? You need to practice. every single day. So let's look at all the different tools that you could practice. And I just want to say some tools work for some people, some tools work for other people. I'm going to show you every single one I know, hopefully in the time slot. And so if you find anything that you think might work for you, take it, share it with your communities, and spread it along the world. So a few major tools for integration. We have our yoga, meditation, mindfulness, social emotional learning, and permaculture design principles and ethics. And so here is an image of all of these things sort of coming together. This is me meditating in my Ganja garden at 9,000 feet up in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. So these tools are really to help us remember, right? The plants are our guide, but we really have all the answers that we need inside. It's just through our life, society, and outside influences make us forget. And so what's the opposite of remember is to dismember, to take apart, right? So when we remember, we're putting ourselves back together again. So the plants here are really the guru. Brigitte pointed out that guru is spelled G-U-R-U. So they're just a tool to help us remember. Guru in Sanskrit is the remover of darkness so that we may see the light. So the plants are removing our darkness so we may see the light. So we can access this wisdom of the cannabis plant to help us thrive. Here's an image of a sadhu smoking in India. The use of cannabis has dated back before we even can know. The plant came to this planet thousands of years before us humans have ever got here. So she has much wisdom to impart. Some say that it was the ganja plant that gave us the science and the knowledge of yoga. Who here has ever smoked weed and felt the urge to stretch? Who here has ever smoked weed and had a brilliant idea? Who here has smoked weed and found community, new ways to live and thrive? The plants brought us these tools. They gave us the wisdom and the knowledge to live. Now, where did the plants come from, though? This is our Lord Shiva, the Lord of Bhang, B-H-A-N-G, elixir that is still drank today in India. And I want to point out he is the color blue or green, and in many different cultures, you'll see gods and goddesses of this color, and quite often it represents an extraterrestrial being. And Shiva, and his top knot, has what we call amrita pouring out. And we think this amrita is the ganja seed, the bija, that came upon this planet. And we also can see through the Buddha, he received his enlightenment sitting under the Bodhi tree. So again, it's in nature that we receive healing. So no matter if we're therapists or doctors or researchers, we must do this alongside with nature because we are nature. When you look at a lot of clinical studies and trials, you're in a room that is sterile and removed from nature. So as we move forward in the psychedelic community, we need nature as a whole to be our ally. And the Buddha also, they say he ate hemp seeds. Hemp seeds are also a complete protein, and you can survive off of hemp alone. It's one of the most versatile plants on the planet. So when we think about this amrita that dropped upon the planet, we get our genetic land races with cannabis. And so if anyone is familiar or uses cannabis here, which I'm sure a lot of you do, you know there's many different names of strains, of genetic cultivars, and some of them are starting to sound crazy, to me at least. But there's no true what we call indica and sativa. Some say indicas get you down, sativas get you up. We are all different. We are all made up of different genetics and chemicals and blood types and life experiences, and we react differently with the plants. And so when you work with the plant medicines and you work with different genetics, they're all going to affect us differently. So what we really need to do is tune into our intuition and how it feels and works with us. And as humans co-evolved with these plants, we brought the seeds and we moved them with us and we bred them out and created different hybrids. But we've been so polyhybridized out that we've really lost this true land race. And so we need to save our seeds. Vandana Shiva says, if you have no seed freedom, you have no freedom. Monsanto owns most of the cannabis industry already. They own the lighting companies, they own the pots, they own Botanicare, they own a bunch of seeds, they're working on patents. Save your seeds. We need to keep this plant in the hands of the people. I also, I come from Colorado, and we had a cannabis cup there recently, and there were 30 of the same genetics entered into the cup, and they all came out through a laboratory with completely different profiles. So when you go to a dispensary and you say, I want a Kush, this dispensary may be completely different than the next one and the next one and the next one and your neighbor down the street. So the only way to really know and what you're consuming is to know your farmer and to know your genetics that are grown by seed. Atta is the first word of the Yoga Sutras, and it means now. Right now. I hear a lot in the news about we have 20 years for global climate change, or in 10 years, or no, it was yesterday. The time is right now to take action and to do the things and to step up and do the work with the plants and the people. And Ayurveda means the science of life. This is literally the keys to life that was given to us from the heavens, from the cosmos. And it's based on the system of elements, of our personal constitutions, of the foods we eat, the times of day, our rituals in the morning, our rituals in the night. And here's an example of the times of day and how that correlates. Looking at eating in regards to what season it is, in living your life in alignment with the cycles of nature. When we are aligned with nature, our internal circadian rhythms, that's how we find healing. That's how we are stable, emotional people. That's how we thrive, when you are aligned with nature. We've gotten so far away from nature with things like artificial lighting and technology and EMF rays. Our nervous system is constantly at threat. And so Ayurveda is a whole science and system of how to bring us back to balance. Mindfulness, by definition of Jon Kabat-Zinn, is paying attention to the present moment without judgment. And that without judgment piece is really key. And I like to include our friend Yoda here because I'm a fan of Star Wars. I think George Lucas was definitely in the psychedelic community. And do or do not, there is no try. You're either doing it or you're not, so do it. I also want to mention about, in mindfulness, there's this thing called the growth mindset. And that means when we are learning, there's a certain capacity of what we think we know. And if you think you already know, then you're not going to keep knowing. An example of that is being able to ask a question. And I've been practicing this myself this whole weekend, where I'm amongst so many brilliant people. And in these conversations, sometimes I have no idea what you're talking about. So I pause you and I say, hey, could you explain that? And that's how we learn. And if you have this growth mindset of, I can always learn more, then that will allow you to remain in the present, to keep opening this glass ceiling. Viktor Frankl is a Holocaust survivor, and he has a lot of great research and theories, and one of the quotes that he says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. If you remember one thing from this presentation, may this quote be it. We do have autonomy over our choices. We can always pause and take a breath before we move forward. And this is a constant practice, and I need to practice it every day myself, no matter how long you've been doing it. It doesn't matter how many degrees you have or how many handstands you do. All that matters is who you are right now in this moment. So let's practice. If you were here with me yesterday for the ceremony, we practiced breathing with our bellies. And so I'm just going to do that really quickly for anyone who wasn't here. You can take your 2 middle fingers, put it on your navel, your belly button, and our belly button is our original life force, our umbilical cord, where we all first got our first nutrients and sustenance for life. So this is a sameness of breath. This is creating a system within your nervous system to balance out your body. So we're going to inhale, inflate the belly on a count of 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, draw the navel in for 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause. 1, 2, 3, 4, and return to your natural breathing. Now, did anyone notice if your pause at the top of the breath or your pause at the bottom of the breath, was one harder or easier than the other? Did anyone find that? Just notice what you notice. So what we're doing here is all about the autonomic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is where most of us live, fight or flight. This is our high elevated stress. The thing is, the threats that we're receiving, though, are not necessarily life-threatening, and then we remain in this elevated state of stress, pumping out cortisol, and in this state is where dis-ease or disease begins to manifest and happen in the body. When we move to the parasympathetic nervous system, is where we rest and digest. Only in the parasympathetic nervous system do you actually assimilate nutrients. So if you eat food when you're stressed, you're not going to assimilate the nutrients. They're just going to pass right through you. It is impossible to want to cause harm to self or others in the parasympathetic nervous system. That has been proven at Harvard Medical School by Rick Hansen. So another way to move into the parasympathetic nervous system is through the vagus nerve. So vagus in Latin means wandering, and it's connected all throughout our body. And there's been a lot of brilliant research done in regards to exactly how we can increase our vagal tones. So we've already been doing some of them: yoga, meditation, mindfulness, chanting. Through research, we found people with increased vagal tones are more well-liked. They have better health outcomes. They have better communities and friendships. This is how we build the health and wellness in our emotional and mental bodies. So all of these things that are listed here have been proven to increase vagal tone. I would like to include one more. It's not been proven yet, but I hope to prove it in the near future. Cannabis and plant spirit medicine. Because we have a system within our body and receptors for the cannabis plant, and it's directly connected to our autonomic nervous system. And so I would like to argue that cannabis as a plant ally is directly related to our sense of mindfulness. Bob Marley says the herb will reveal you to yourself, because the herb is part of this mindfulness practice. It's the plant that came to this planet to give us the understanding of life and how to be and how to live. So to deepen our vagus nerve, we'll do one more breath practice, Viloma Pranayama. And this is an extension of the exhalation. So as we inhaled for 4, pause for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, now we're going to inhale for 4, pause for 4, exhale for 8, or as long as you can, pause for 4. So we're going to literally exhale out double the amount of time. So let's try that together. Take a deep breath in, 4, 3, 2, 1, pause, 4, 3, 2, 1, exhale slowly, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, pause, 4, 3, 2, 1, inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1, pause, 4, 3, 2, 1, exhale, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Notice what you notice. So why do we practice mindfulness? Oh, wow, okay, 15. I have lots of tools I want to give you, so I'm going to go through this as quick as I can. So we practice mindfulness many reasons. We found it boosts the immune system, decreases negative emotion, stress, basically all the things that bring us off track in our life and we experience through trauma. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk is another great researcher. He argues trauma is an illness of not being fully alive in the present moment. We all have stories of our trauma. We all have been through trauma, as I said, some more than others. And if we can, as simple as that, remain in the present moment, may we not feel the pain and suffering of our traumas. Really quick, want to touch about the placebo effect. I think instead of placebo, it should be called mindfulness, because what it is belief that you are healing yourself. And if you believe it, then it happened and you were healed. Wow. Let's look at this a lot more. We need to do a lot more research on just placebos, just telling someone that you're going to get better, taking nothing. It's your mind. It's mindfulness. So let's look at that in a deeper way. Sorry. So a way to train the mind, we have something called chitta or chatter, where is constantly that bad talk. When we talk about schizophrenic patients, they have all these voices, but everybody has a voice in their head, and it's always talking to us. And most often when it's talking to yourself, it is speaking negatively and harsher than you would talk to anybody else. And so to quiet that chitta and that chatter, a mantra is Sat Nam, is a simple one. It means I am. And you can think of it as you inhale, say Sat, and as you exhale, say Nam. The mantra of Ganja is Om Shiva Shankara Hari Hari Ganja. We say when we smoke the Ganja plant together. And so social emotional learning is a process through which children and adults apply the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to understand and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. So that's where we want to get to, is being able to make responsible decisions throughout our life for our health and our happiness. So we call this SEL. I worked in the schools systems for many years as a director of education and curriculum developer while I was working in Peru with ayahuasca plant. So a lot of this was brought to me through the Mama Ayahuasca. So in order for us to build these social-emotional skills, we first need self-awareness, understanding our own emotions, then being able to manage them. Once we know how to manage our emotions, we can have social awareness and empathy for others, which leads to relationship skills, which then leads to being able to make responsible decisions. It is a stepwise process, and we must start from the beginning. And we must start with our youth. This was ACEs, is adverse childhood effects. These are all the things that give us trauma as adults. It is much harder to treat an adult with trauma than to raise children from the beginning in the proper way, to raise children without trauma. And so this is a longitudinal study. They looked at 20 years of ACE effects. So ACEs are something like having an alcoholic parent, being a product of a teen parent. So there's different risk factors that makes it more likely to become an adult with trauma, end up in jail. And so this is what the study shows. When we bring mindfulness and social-emotional learning to the youth, they did a 20-year study longitudinally and found that the youth were more apt to graduate from high school, get a college degree, and they were less likely to live in public housing, receive assistance, involved with police in any way. And so this is really what we need to do, is turn to see how we can work with the youth as well. People suffering from depression who received mindfulness-based trauma care were 31% less likely to suffer a relapse during the next 60 weeks. So 30% less likely than the patients who were on antidepressants. I believe in making data-driven decisions. Mindfulness is extremely more effective and beneficial than we've seen with other pharmaceuticals. They do have their place. However, let's also look at the research. And we see that we have a problem on the planet, and so linking it with how all of these concepts of yoga and meditation and mindfulness work with the earth and the plants, it's really about our emotions and getting the understanding with the plant medicine to bring about this change on this planet. So Masanobu Fukuoka says, the healing of the land and the purification of the human spirit is the same process. He is a farmer from Japan who wrote the book One Straw Revolution, which I highly recommend. And he's a do-nothing farmer. He believes that we work with Mother Nature, and as we cultivate the land, we really cultivate ourselves, so it's imperative that we can work with the soil. So we talk a lot about the soul of the plants, the plant spirit, but there would be no plants if there was no soil. So I want to look at the soul of the soil. And right here is an image of the Hunabku from the Mayan culture. It means all one God coming together. And so when we look at the soul of the soil, we can look at how we are really all connected, as above, so below. So it's impossible to contemplate the life of soil very long without seeing its analogy to the life of the spirit. Wendell Berry, another wonderful writer about understanding your spirit in the soil. So the difference between dirt and soil, most cannabis is being grown in dirt. Soil is alive and dirt is dead. So what does that mean, though? Let's see. So Dr. Elaine Ingham is a microbiologist and researches about the soil food web, and the Green Revolution started around the 1950s when we switched from our traditional agricultural models to an NPK model, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. And what this did was try to bypass the soil food web with the same time that we had these chemical companies coming out saying that we need to put pesticides, fungicides, herbicides into the plant. So in 1950 was when we had this huge change. DDT is good for me. Rachael Carlevale, Silent Spring. So this is really when everything tried to change, and we're still in this shift. We're still in this paradigm of the MPK model of farming. So because we're still in this model, I wanted to briefly talk about my own personal story and why I'm up here today. This is an image of my father and myself. We were both diagnosed with cancer. My father, his name's Joe Carlevale. He's a very strong man, and he used to actually play hockey for the Sherbrooke Castors here in Canada. So that's my tie to Canada. He was diagnosed with cancer, and seeing that earlier slide about how I was arrested a couple times for weed, it completely ruined my life. I lost college scholarships. It was awful. He was among the generation of reefer madness. Cannabis is bad. I don't want it. I only trust doctors in the white coats. I had a background of shaman's pharmacy. I had a different outview. I had a different outlook of life. I believe in magic. That was my treatment. That was my father's treatment. This is the systems that we're in today, and I'm here on this stage to share my story and talk about plant medicine with you all. And I'd like to dedicate this presentation to my father and to everyone on this planet who doesn't believe in the power of cannabis, because it does work and it does heal. And after my father passed away, I walked into a coffee shop, and this was hanging right there on the poster board, and I said, damn, you're so right. Compost is proof there's life after death. That just made me smile, and I wanted to share that. So we're going to practice. No, we're not going to do this. The reason that we practice yoga and asanas and balance is to get us out of our head and into our hearts. Mantra is to get us out of our mind and into the heart. The heart is the first organ of perception, and with our neurological systems, if we can catch the messages in the heart before they go into the head, it's really what all these practices are aiming at doing. And when we're balancing, when we're trying to do something crazy, we're not going to be thinking about our traumas. We're not going to be thinking about our grief. Just mentioned, we're all part of the soil food web. And permaculture is based off of 3 main ethics and 12 principles. I was going to go over all of them, but we're not going to do that today. But the main point I really want to stress is no matter what you're doing in your life, it's crucial to have all of these pieces together. You must be ethical in what we do in regards to earth care, people care, fair share. So we look at this like the hub of a wheel, and the 12 principles are like the spokes, and we all roll together. Can also be seen in comparison to the chakra systems in yoga, the zones of regulation in permaculture, looking just at how all these systems are similar and integrated in our cultures. And so every problem and the solution, Bill Mollison, a great permaculturist and farmer, says he went to a farm and they had a snail problem. Too many snails were eating their plants. And he said, you don't have a snail problem, you have a duck deficiency. Ducks eat snails. So you look at your system and you see where the imbalances are, because everything has a purpose in life. And so if you have a pest in your garden or in your body or in your mind, you're missing something of the whole. So how can we adjust that? This is also our current systems. This is the problem. This is what's happening currently in the cannabis industry. We are bypassing the soil food web. We think we're smarter than nature, and we are putting profits over patients. So we currently have things like 80% of Denver's weed fails mold tests. There was a company in Canada who, I forget the name of the company, and I don't like mentioning them, but they had plastic in their weed. They were so huge, they couldn't just get the plastic pieces out. It was showing up in their tinctures and in their edibles, they had tiny pieces of plastic because they were just treating the plant so horribly. So we need to remember, cannabis is a plant spirit. We need to respect her. Terence McKenna says, avoid gurus, follow plants. Earth care, care for the earth, not stewards of her, but we are part of her. People care, care for your people around you, not just your immediate family, but everybody. And fair share, equity. If you have surplus, give back. Give more than you get. These are the three main ethics of everything that you do to make sure that you include them in your practice. I'm going to get to the end. So those are all the principles. We won't go over them. So one quick thing to mention too is practice gratitude and be kind, because it doesn't matter what you say and it doesn't matter what you know or read or your degree or anything like that, because our nervous systems communicate with each other, and it matters who you are. There was a study done, Kristen Neff, that showed she studied therapists and their view of themselves. And those that had negative views of themselves, it doesn't matter what they said to their patients, their patients did not get better. And those that had positive views of themselves, their patients got better. It matters who we are, how we affect others. So I'll tell you about the last principle, 12, is just to respond to change. So we are in an industry, we do need to abide by the law, and we can do this on a large scale, work with permaculture, work with cannabis, and we've done it. This is modeling nature inside. This is what we call no-till container gardening. This is in Pahrump, Nevada, in the middle of the desert. One of the clients I have with 20,000 square feet, we reclaim everything. In the middle of the desert, their water bill is $70 a month for 20,000 square feet of growing herb, because we are modeling nature. We're creating an ecosystem inside. And thanks to Dragonfly Earth Medicine for their Vancouver company, and they provided all the weed for our ceremony last night. It's all grown organically. And here are some keys to get you started. And iti is the last word of the Yoga Sutras. There's a whole bunch of words in the middle between ata, which is now, and iti, which is again. So now, be here now, again, begin again, and keep practicing and do the work. And that's an image of me putting all of these practices together of how I personally dealt with the grief of losing my father. This is what it looks like to put all these practices of working with soil and spirit and meditation and mindfulness. And this is me in my compost pile. So there's truly nothing left to do but smile, smile, smile. However, your trip is short, so get to work. So I have some homework for you. Random acts of kindness. So there was a study done. If you do 5 random acts of kindness, so this is the homework. You have today, and then the next 5 days, you need to do 1 act of kindness each day. It needs to be a different act. It could be tiny, like putting money in a parking meter or holding the door open for someone, or it could be huge. Up to you. You can do more than 1 if you want, but just do 5 acts over the next 5 days. After you do it, write down how you felt, and after the 5 days, I guarantee you something will change for the better. And make sure you enjoy the ride while you're doing it. Thank you so much.